everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them, and maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
Hold on, it's so smoky in here. God.
Oh my God.
Hold on. It's a hazy podcast here for Director Watch, because we're talking about Inherent Vice, the most controversial, polarizing, Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to talk about our history with this movie because I have a pretty unique one.
Yeah, me too.
And it's going to be a good app. We're like well into the back half of PTA here, Ryan. We're getting near the end. This is sad.
It is sad. And we don't have a guest this week. It's just you and me. We're doing a solo.
Yeah, is this the first PTA without a guest?
Yeah, it's the first solo one.
Crazy.
And I think everyone was too scared.
They're too scared to approach Inherent Vice. And you know what? Understandable.
You know, they're also probably too high.
That's true. We did have a guest lined up, but they're a no-show. I don't know.
They're like running around the block right now. So
they're solving crimes.
So thanks, Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I guess you'll be on some other time. I don't know.
We were trying to get the CEO of the Golden Fang, but unfortunately.
Well, you know how things like that goes.
Yep.
Martin Short
was supposed to be on this podcast.
Yes, yeah, but
how many podcasts do you think Martin Short's been on?
Well, he's probably been on Conan, right? Everybody goes on
that would
Conan.
make sense.
When are you going on Conan?
I actually went on Conan, and it was too controversial. They didn't. It was never released.
Ooh. What did you say?
Oh God, where to even begin? I want this episode to come out, so I don't want to repeat what I said on that.
No, that's fair. I don't want to.
Really, it was Conan who was just going crazy. I don't know what was wrong with him that day, but yeah, he was talking about all sorts of conspiracy theories. It's it is what it is. I hold no resentment towards it. I think it would have been great press for this podcast.
Was it like how some of those like people like crystals and like how 1 + 1 = like 3 or something like that?
It was a lot of stuff about Leno.
Oh well, yeah. You got a good Jay Leno impression, Jay?
I don't think I do. I think Ryan in general is better at accents than I am, at impressions than I am. So Ryan, you got a good Jay Leno. Yeah, there you go, right there. That's all you got to do.
That's all you got to do.
What's the deal with this guy?
We got something going on tonight with Kevin Eubanks.
Oh, I thought that's Inherent Vice, and I just can't believe how weird it was.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like,
what's going on with that?
I mean, that sounds more Mickey Mouse.
It's a little too high pitched.
Yeah, a little too high pitched.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Keep it right there, and then you're good. Did you see this? This episode's completely off the rails.
Hey, did you see this? Inherent Vice? I didn't understand the friggin' theme of it.
I think that's like the set of. Did you watch a lot of Leno when you were growing up? Because I did.
No,
and
I
like,
did not.
He was awful. Him and Letterman by that point. I was like, I watched a lot of Conan or.
I watched a lot of Conan. Conan. If I watched any of those, it was Conan.
Conan would play a lot on Comedy Central when I was growing up. Like the reruns would show, like what would show the night before would show during the day on Comedy Central, and that's how I was able to watch a lot of it. And man, that stuff was just insanely funny. It's so stupid, and probably as a reason for a lot of the type of humor that I have today is just really
He was such a. I think he's such an important, kind of underrated how important he was. Yeah. As a influential comedy figure of his time. He's awesome. He could have been in this.
Oh, he would have. Who would he have been? Eric Roberts? Eric Roberts out of this.
No.
Guy's got to pay for his parking pass for the year.
Conan's never really done movies.
No, because he's Conan. He doesn't need to.
I guess none of those night talk show guys. I guess. I mean, Letterman Letterman never. Well, yeah, Fallon. His show is a total backup plan, he fell into it.
His show is the most unwatchable of all the shows.
I watched The Love Guru recently, and
yes.
Stephen Colbert's in that.
Well, Colbert is a traditional comedian, so like
Yeah.
and he come from the Daily Show and sketch comedy, and
I heard
I like Colbert's show. I mean, like it's not what it used to
I
be,
think his
but
show is
like
awful. And they there's an interview with Bo Burnham where Bo Burnham calls Stephen Colbert moving from the Colbert Report to this new show one of the great tragedies of the modern era. He thinks it is like heinous what has happened to Stephen Colbert, and I think I
well,
kind of agree with him.
I mean, like Bo
But
Burnham clearly has it all together.
what is Bo Burnham doing?
I'm sure he's fake quarantining to make more
He could have
content
been
for
in
everybody
this.
else. Yeah, he could have been. He actually could probably been the Owen Wilson character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like Inside?
I liked Inside, but I feel like it was. I mean, I don't know. It's a relic of the era of the
Kind of is, but it hit. Yeah,
it was right when we all needed
being a
something,
person who was exactly that age and living that same era. I got it.
Yeah.
And
but have
and
I
some,
thought about it since?
No, it's not nearly as deep as it kind of wants
No,
to
because
be.
I also don't want to think about the year I was stuck inside.
But yeah, I mean that's totally fair. That's kind of the problem with a lot of the art of COVID art.
Well, I mean, there's some good movies that were released in 2020, but I don't go back to a lot.
But not the stuff that was like, we made it this way.
We made it because
we are trying to remind you of. I mean, there's like Kimmy is that way.
Kimmy's good though.
But Kimmy's good. I'm saying there are a few exceptions. What was the Anne Hathaway Chiwetel Ejiofor movie?
Oh my God, the one that went straight to Max.
Yeah, truly
an abomination.
An abomination. I mean, should be put in the Disney vault, never to be seen again.
There's a movie like Language Lessons. Remember Language Lessons? Just like
oh man, like Zoom movies. Oh God.
I mean, I'll take Language Lessons.
Some people liked Language Lessons. I did not like Language Lessons.
It's better than like Flora and Son, which came out this year, and that's like a Zoom movie. And the John Carney film. Did you see that?
No.
Don't. It's terrible. We gotta stop with the John Carney movies for a little bit. The guy's gotta stop making like semi-musicals.
I think we need a guest. I think we've lost the ability to do an episode without a guest.
I don't think so. I think that we're doing wonderful because we're all over the place, much like Inherent Vice.
True.
And
this is on theme.
This is very much on theme. And Inherent Vice, which is his first adaptation. It's his first.
Oil.
I mean, well, yes. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. But of
his first true faithful adaptation.
Exactly. And of a novel that was deemed by many people, and an author really that was
an author,
people,
yeah.
The just unmakeable stuff when it gets it's
unadaptable.
All yeah. And this movie came out in 2014. This movie is written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and it stars just an insane lineup as usual. But it's Joaquin Phoenix, Josh Brolin, Owen Wilson, Catherine Waterston, Reese Witherspoon, Benicio del Toro, Martin Short, Jenna Malone. You even have, like I said, Eric Roberts. There's Jillian Bell, Michael Kenneth Williams, the late great Michael Kenneth Williams, Maya Rudolph, Hong Chow.
Yeah.
There's just a great cast. The story is as follows: is that in the 1970s, drug-fueled Los Angeles, private investigator Larry Doc Sportello investigates the disappearance of his former girlfriend. Jay, this is like you mentioned, I think this is a really fascinating film. It's another big kind of turning point for a lot of people on PTA because I feel like this was the most divided people have been on a PTA movie. Even if you were the biggest fan of his, a lot of people that we know are still very mixed on this. This is also a movie still that tons of people are still trying to figure out what it means, what it's saying, what it's doing. Very much in the vein still of like taking kind of like the skeleton of the master and kind of continuing that on. It's a very challenging drug-fueled comedy. But I have a feeling, Jay, that you like this movie. So what do you think of Inherent Vice? And what was you have a story to tell. What was your experience first seeing the film?
So, yeah, I actually wrote a review of this movie when it first came out.
Was that on Raining Frogs?
That was on, this is post that. That was on Film Inquiry.
Oh, wow. Film Inquiry?
The title of that review was a review of Inherent Vice from someone who loves PTA and hates the book.
Ooh,
So we'll kind of start there. I think hate the book. I think I
a
put
little
that in the title
strong.
as a little bit inflammatory, a little bit of a headline grabber. But have you read this book?
I have not read the book, but
Yes. Have you read Pynchon at all?
I read some. Like
This
he's
is the
not
only
like
Pynchon I've read, and I read
he's not
it
my guy.
because of this movie.
I read his last book. God, what was that called? Bleeding Edge. It came out
Hmm.
in came out in 2013. So it came out like right after this or right around when this was coming out.
Yeah, and
And that's a very interesting sort of book about like technology and
what do you
all of that.
what kind of sense do you get from his style of writing?
He's
Given it's only one book, I've only read the one.
yeah, it's all
So
I've only read the one book, but from what I could gather, it's a lot of grand ideas uh thrown in a story, and you kind of pick apart what you want, and I feel like I've here, let me restart that again. I feel like it's a lot of vibes for him, and but he covers a lot of stuff in his books. There's not just like one. He's not traditional, right, Jay? In the
no,
sense
he
of
is
like
not. He is not traditional.
he's very much a guy that like loves to go from idea to idea, sort of swing back and forth, and I kind of admire that because I feel like sometimes like traditional books can just be a little bit too much, and I feel like there is a sort of cinematic quality to his books, and sort of I can understand why directors and artists would want to take these and have pulled their hair out for years trying to do it, because they've tried to adapt what he did, elevate it maybe with their own point of view, or his point of view. He's a very recluse guy, very quiet guy as
He's
well
the
too.
Terrence Malick of authors.
Yeah, he's like I don't want to. Do you have a
Apparently,
train?
he's in this movie.
Yeah,
Supposedly,
you won't know where he is. Brolin spoiled that, and there wasn't Brolin wasn't even supposed to say like that he was in the film. But then because Josh Brolin, he's just a good guy. But then yeah, people have sort of speculated who he is in the film, but either way, yeah, I think Pynchon's an interesting novelist and an interesting figure, um, but I've always wanted to read this. I was going to read this actually before we did this episode. I just didn't get around to it because life's just been so crazy. But you've read the book, so you don't like the book.
I don't particularly care for the book, and if this is Pynchon's kind of vibe, then it's not really. I found it exhausting. I mean, it is just
I can see that. Yeah,
so
it was
much.
it almost feels like a chore, wouldn't you say, to
A
get through?
little bit. I mean, it's just like every line of dialogue is just so grandiose and loaded, and occasionally a little too cutesy for my liking. But the ideas and stuff, I was sort of like, this idea of disillusionment and the changing of the guard of an era and all that stuff, I thought was interesting and compelling. But if you're going to just straight up adapt a movie like that and kind of go word for word with it, even so I was kind of thinking this afternoon, just thinking about this movie and what to talk about with it. Did you read the Tarantino Once Upon a Time in Hollywood novelization?
I'm going to tell you this: I didn't, and and I see my copy of it right over there in the
Yeah.
paperback, because I just read so much about that, how he elaborated, but then also changed things and put things in the book. And I love that movie. You know how much I love that movie so much.
Mhm.
I don't really honestly give a shit about
It's an
the
interesting
books.
object. I mean, I'm glad I read it.
I mean, like, I think for me, like, I would love Tarantino to like stop focusing on this shit and just make his last movie. Or
Well, he says he's only going to make one more, so he might as well
that.
drag it out, I guess.
Okay, this has been very topical online. I guess
Has
like
this
the
been
last
in the news recently?
again. It's in the news because like he's talking about
I don't think he's gonna stop.
oh no, I think he's gonna make like a Max miniseries or a Netflix
Oh, I don't
series.
think that will happen.
Oh, you think he's gonna just keep making
I think he's just
movies?
gonna keep making movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's gonna come back and be like, well, maybe I meant 15. You know what I mean?
What is
And
he? Is he 60?
he's got to be like yeah in his 60s or whatever, um, or close to it. I know, but he's
A
recently.
little bit older than PTA, maybe.
You'll know this. You'll appreciate it. I mean, he just did become a dad. He did get married and
Yeah.
settled down.
He
So
is
I mean,
60 on the noodle.
he has other things that he wants to do. And some directors, yeah, they stop making movies after a certain while. Not every director has to be Scorsese or Spielberg and keep making movies into their 80s, but yeah, I just yeah, I rather him just work on that. It's an interesting kind of exercise, I guess, for a
I'm
director
fine
to
with
do
him
that for.
trying it, It's
Yeah, but
whatever.
just make another movie.
But I guess the point I was trying to make was he writes novels differently than he writes
Screenplays.
films. It's not like the super slick, all dialogue kind of stuff.
Yeah,
There's a lot of descriptors and things like that.
I read his.
Pynchon
I read
is
his.
largely just like it's the stuff you walk away from with Pynchon is just dialogue, 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 dialogue. Characters talking very grandiosely, and when it's not dialogue, it's like this very almost academic, very detailed descriptions of things, and it was a hard read when I read it the first time. I would honestly like to go back and read it again after revisiting this, and I will spoil it. Now adoring this movie,
Mhm.
I'm like all the way in on this now,
Me too.
and
Are you in the Five Tigers Club? 5-star club?
I'm in the 5-star club on this
Me
one.
too.
This one, I mean,
This pushed me over the edge.
yeah, it's kind of what I found myself loving so much about it this time around was the stuff that's not on screen. These kind of invisible forces that really do feel like they're engulfing every character in this movie, just pulling apart everything. And this idea of the world being this vertically integrated environment of corruption and exploitation
Yeah.
that these characters are experiencing not through the lens of like 3 Days of the Condor or American or Parallax View kind of paranoia, but in this kind of marijuana haze where they're just sort of again disillusioned is kind of the term I come to. And you have this guy whose job is to navigate these very rough waters, and he does so with all the intensity of a guy going down the street to get a donut on a Sunday morning for the most part. And him being this largely passive character really kind of just speaks to the moment of America in 1970. And it's also truly hilarious. I think if you love this movie, you kind of have to say it's his funniest movie, I think, because it is overtly funny. I mean, he's playing with like Looney Tunes imagery, and
It's almost there's like when he gets bumped and pushed down by the cops, Sportello,
yeah.
and the way he kind of walks and the way he kind of gets trapped in rooms and stuff, it feels very Buster Keaton, feels very Chaplin.
It is. I mean, it is that it's not so much the master in There Will Be Blood, which are very much
dark humor,
like you say. Yeah, it's like, but it is funny because they're taking it so seriously. And this one, they are like, let's get a little loose with it. Let's mess around a little bit.
That's what a stoner comedy.
Yeah.
But you throw in the noir aspect of it and this detective story and everything along.
And the comparisons to The Long Goodbye and The Big Lebowski are just asking to be made.
Yeah.
But this, I would say, if you're asking me, I might actually like this less than both of those, but they're all 5-star movies for me.
Yeah.
That's
Lebowski and The Long Goodbye are ridiculous.
How about a trilogy right there? a day of movie watching with those three movies. That'd be something
Hmm.
special. Um, but this film, I think, is a little more. It does kind of bridge the gap between those two because Lebowski is the thing about Lebowski that I think people have come to realize over time is it's kind of a Gulf War movie.
Yeah.
It's completely living in the shadow of the Gulf War.
Yep.
And this movie is completely living in the shadow of Vietnam.
Yep.
Or at least Vietnam is one of the forces kind of pushing against Sportello in this world. And there's many, many others. And that's kind of what I love so much about it is this transitionary period where people are really what they're doing is monetizing all of the trends of this era, which is this huge transitional period where counterculture is, or not even necessarily monetizing, but using it as a source of power. But there's this push against counterculture because of the cults that have been kind of popping up. But then also they're sort of monetizing the cults by making these spiritual rehab facilities that are just completely bunk. And the cops are using the Manson murders as a way to increase their authoritarianism
And they're
and
planning
kind of
them
militarize themselves.
and planning themselves into everyday life to make normalizations of police encounters and how in
And
which
then
they do
that
their job.
increased the increased sort of normalization of an increased police force does things like popularize some of these cop shows and make it so that a cop is now like a marketing
Machine.
a
Yeah.
marketing man.
Yeah.
He's selling cars or
Well,
whatever
the fact,
on
or I mean,
TV.
and then you're talking about those forces, but then like the fact that like rehabilitation is also a dirty scheme that is planted with inside these organizations
Yeah,
as well. I mean, like there's so many different things, and it's a web
it's
of
the
just
golden fang. You make it
yeah,
at like this like ambiguous force, and then you turn it into something where they're gonna get you hooked
yeah,
on drugs that destroy your teeth. And then because of that, they've invented this dentistry arm of their business, which is a very funny kind of way to illustrate this very good business model. Let's be
hmm
honest.
yeah,
But it is a very funny, heightened idea of creating your own circular economy of pain and
yeah,
suffering. And all of those elements, in addition to the fact that this thing's so freaking funny, um, I adore this movie now. I really this is one of my this is definitely in the top half of his filmography for me at least, and it might be it's rising up the ranks
yeah.
as I think about it.
Yeah, it's a movie I absolutely love too. I mean, even like I think Shasta and Doc's relationship, it almost has. I mean, the greatest noir, one of the greatest noir films of all time is Double Indemnity, and it has that sort of. They have that sort of relationship of those characters in that film too, of just this moth to these both of these moths to the flame that come together and they really shouldn't, and there's a danger that always lingers, and they've got this history. And I love the way that PTA Jade uses their time to establish their relationship throughout the film. Right, like when
Mm-hmm.
we first meet her, she's at a really desperate moment in her life, but then every moment we then see her when she like comes back to him, it almost feels like at a point where you're like, "Do is this even real? Is this happening? Like is all this kind of in Doc's head because he is an unreliable narrator, even though he is our hero as well too, and he's getting sort of engulfed into this story, and the deeper he goes down the rabbit hole, the more little clues aren't it he's getting lost within the mystery itself. And I love that about the film is that over time I feel like the when audiences first kind of saw it, at least when I first saw it, I understood it when I was watching it, but then about 20 minutes later I was like, wait, what did I just watch? Like I got it in the moment, and then the more and more I started like thinking about it, I was losing the thread. And then over the years I've watched it more and more and more. And I mean, it is a really funny movie. It's also extremely sad. Like the final
Yes.
5 minutes in that car between Doc and Shasta are absolutely devastating. Um, but then also there's a just like a smidge of hope. And it's just kind of what the era and the and what a machine can do even to people that um, are good at what they do, or have good morals, or are in love with one another. I think that um, it is interesting, Jay, that like this was originally supposed to possibly be Robert Downey Jr. instead of Joaquin Phoenix. That's what PTA initially wanted. Doc Sportello or
He's
saw
kind of
Doc
too
Sportello.
slick.
Too slick, but Phoenix is perfect for this because it's a great compliment to the master in just this
Yeah.
hyper serious, super skinny, um, wild man, and then on the other side of the is this very laid back, passive detective, which is really interesting because he has to be super passive until he's not, right, until he gets into full danger by the end. And even when he shoots a guy, he's like, did I get you? Are you okay? Like he's like they still out, and it's the funniest kind of reaction you've ever seen. Probably somebody shoot someone in the last 15 years in a movie. But I agree with you. Like this movie is talking a lot about the paranoia of the era, and it's funny that you do bring up Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because that's a movie. By the end of that movie, that's trying to hang on to the innocence, right? That is in the 60s and right before we hit the 70s, and it completely
Yeah, and
lost.
it's a revisionist
It's a
history.
revisionist history and everything. And this is firmly planted more in the reality of that innocence is gone, the harsh realities of the world, and the people in power are running amok. And I mean, someone like Bigfoot playing both sides of being this detective who's rounding up hippies and always on Doc's ass, and yet still using him in a weirdly frenemy sort of relationship to be able to get what he wants. Everything is a transaction, a means to someone getting exactly what they want, and that leaves it to be a very wild world, almost like the Wild West, but also feels very cold at times too. Doesn't mean that it's not hilarious, but that's exactly what this world has become by this point in a sort of like a just a decade change. It almost feels like as if too, from when you see Doc with Shasta in those flashback sequences, and those are pure romantic, and they've been together, and they have optimism, and they're and they're firmly in love. By the time we get to the version of Doc that we see here, he's a very much changed man, just like as much as the time has changed. I think PTA is a wild man from reading about his adaptation of this, Jay, of writing literally it out word for word and then going back and
Yeah.
editing it and editing it and editing it to get to the film that he got. But I also think too, in adapting something of a novel that, like you're saying, is a lot to take in, um, it's it's being more of a traditional adaptation than of course there will be blood and oil. It weirdly might be one of his best scripts, if not like his best script ever, because it's got so many great, interesting things it has to say, and it's got so many memorable lines, and it's
And
got
I'd
so
like a
many.
scene on a scene to scene basis.
It's just
It's basically a collection of 25 great short films,
yeah, and
you know,
and it's great, and
but it ends up being cohesive.
yeah, and it all
Which I was
makes
reading
sense.
I was reading my old review. Never go read an old review. Just don't
Never,
do it.
yeah. You read an old review, then well, because
I
you
was,
evolve as a writer, and then you're like, oh, that's an error, or ooh, I don't agree with that, or what was I saying there? Yeah, I do that all the time.
yeah. And I was just
It,
reading this today because I hadn't read it in a while. I normally never, I normally wipe my hands clean of stuff I write immediately, but I was interested and, I just didn't, I didn't really see the there with this movie
but
when I
now
saw
you
it the
do.
first time. And I feel like I definitely have a better handle on it. And I think that was certainly when I wasn't the only person who kind of used that as a criticism when seeing this the first time. It's kind of hard to decipher this movie because it is throwing so much at you. It has such a unique energy to it where it will be zany and gag heavy 1 minute, and then it will, drop of a hat, turn into this really kind of dark, moody piece about lost love and the ability to take advantage of somebody because they love you, and um, these really heavy themes. Um, and sometimes it'll kind of delve into this movie that is sort of playing pretty fast and loose with drug use and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, this almost ruined my entire life. Um, so it's just operating at a real, it's like on this bleeding edge of going too far one direction or the other. It's just doing this crazy balancing act. And so it's easy to watch it the first time and get kind of lost in the whole construction of the thing, and kind of lose the forest through the trees a little bit. But when you kind of step back and look at this thing, and I'll tell you what I did the first time I saw this movie. When it was released on home video, I was so confounded by the fact that I didn't love a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this movie 3 more times this week. And the first time, I am going to watch it normally.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, I am going to take meticulous notes about the plot,
Okay.
and just like really try and get a handle on the story of this movie. And then the third time, I am going to watch it and completely turn my mind off and just vibe. And
I thought you were going to say then the third time you did a little,
no, not I'm no Doc Sportello in that sense.
All right. Okay.
But I definitely appreciated it more doing that. I don't think that's a good way to approach any movie. Trying to convince yourself that you like it.
Just like Clockwork Orange yourself into liking it.
Basically, that's basically what I did. But I certainly feel like I have a pretty decent handle on the story. It's actually not that complicated.
It's not that complicated.
You can get lost in some details, but really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to this golden fang is responsible for everything, really.
It's all encompassing, and
right.
He just figures it out that it's through a corrupt cop, and it's related back to.
And you really don't have to know more than that.
Yeah.
To kind of understand the movie.
And then it's just it really is a movie. You know what it is? It's like a movie of side missions. And you really like that. That's like everyone thinks that when you watch like a show, like a detective show or a TV show, like it's all going to be wrapped up in 60 minutes, and it's these obvious clues. This movie shows you like detective work is like the smallest obvious little thing could actually finally unlock the big case, and then when it does unlock, it's kind of anticlimactic in a way.
That is the thing about it, is that it is kind of anticlimactic
in the best way, though. Not on like a.
It is yeah. I mean, it's kind of the point in many ways, and we are introduced to these very colorful characters. The big takeaway on this watch, especially now because she is kind of so much more front of mind in the world of Hollywood, was Hong Chow. She's great in this movie.
So good. Yeah, I'm glad that Hollywood was able to watch this movie and realize, oh, that's a movie star right there. If we just give her, or a great character.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's I wouldn't call her a movie star.
Well, she's not a movie star, but like she can be. She's definitely the discovery of the film.
She's really kind of a special actor, and
she's very versatile.
I mean, last year and this year, I guess it's all this year. No, I guess
it was last year too.
Yeah, Showing Up, she's awesome in. She's so good.
So good in that movie.
The Whale is an absolutely terrible film.
But she's
the best. She's the best performance in the movie, in my opinion.
Oscar nominated.
She's very fun in The Menu, like a nice kind of schlocky, fun movie.
Fun tortillas.
And then Asteroid City, smaller part, but she's good in that too.
She's got like one scene in Asteroid City, and she just dominates it.
Yeah,
I wish she was in more. She should honestly be in more Wes Anderson stuff. She really, really does a great job with it.
Yeah, she is made for that a little bit, and she's great. Ensemble piece here, and she kind of just like pops up every now and then. She's actually, if you look at
like 3 times,
if you look at screen time, I bet she's top 10 right? I
Probably
mean,
like,
she ends
yeah.
up being kind of a pretty important plot propeller.
She's got more screen time than Martin Short, and Martin Short was in like the advertisements for this movie. So like,
Well, he's Martin Short, so
yeah, well,
I get it.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, it's like she still has more time than some of these other big actors. Like
Right, right, right. Yeah.
she's got more time in this movie that it feels like than even Reese Witherspoon. You
Clearly
know?
PTA had saw something with her. Oh yeah, I forgot she was in Watchmen too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Good
anyway,
good actor.
she is very good. You
Yeah.
know who's another good
Anyway, I'm just
actor?
looking at her filmography now.
Now you
Who's
yeah,
that?
now you're is Reese Witherspoon. I think
Oh,
Reese.
we're going to Reese now.
We're going to Reese. I
Okay.
think I'm gonna put my money on the table here. Okay.
And Reese plays Doc's new girlfriend that he doesn't really care about, but he
Doc's new girl
uses for access
because she's in the
to
assist
police files.
because
Yeah.
she's an assistant DA. Um uh district attorney for all those people out there that don't know what a DA is.
Oh, nice. We got Private Dick Ryan McQuade over here.
Thank you very much. I think that scene on the bench outside of her office when Doc first goes and sees her um, is incredible. And it's the reason why a movie like, I know the movie's not that great, but a movie like Walk the Line works because there's something about Reese Witherspoon and Joaquin Phoenix. They have incredible chemistry, incredible chemistry together in this movie and that movie. And he Phoenix was a big reason why she got the role. He sort of like hinted at it to PTA, and PTA was um like he saw how great they were together, how natural both Witherspoon and Phoenix were together, and she only was there for 4 days, but he was desperately trying to write more or trying to figure out a way to get her in this film more, and she had to like tell him, which is her being a great producer, I don't think you want that because then this movie's not going to be very good. And so she convinced him to stop. And yet, I just want to kind of see these two make more movies together because, man, dude,
I'm very pro Reese.
I am too. Like when she's not producing bad
She's been in some
television
awful
shows
stuff.
and doing like producing for like crawdads and stuff like that.
Well, her whole thing now is she buys the rights to books and makes $1 bajillion.
Well, you want to know why she did that?
It's a
Because
good business model.
she nailed it with like Gone Girl. Like Gone Girl was her whole thing. Everyone thought, oh, she's gonna be Amy, amazing Amy, and everything. Nope. She bought that book and she got featured it, on and Rosamund Pike, and she just played the producer role, which would have
She
been
should have been nominated for an Oscar for Legally Blonde.
Yes, she's incredible. That's an incredible comedic.
That's one of those movies that, in the hands of somebody else, is just awful.
No, but
she puts that thing on her back and just carries it across the finish line.
She's incredible in like Election.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, Election's like a real movie, so yeah, she's awesome in that.
Well, so is Leo. They're all real movies. They all got made. I think she's great in something like Wild, which starts her her collaboration with John Mark Vallée, which then she got him to direct the first season of Big Little Lies.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually really good on Big Little Lies. I mean, like I get Kidman has the harder and showier role in that, and Dern has,
I mean, the showiest one is Dern. Yeah, the takeaway from Big Little Lies is Dern.
Yeah, but Witherspoon's incredible on that. And again, another one where she got the book rights and did it. But yeah, man, I just loved her in this movie, and I think that she's really interesting as also somebody too. Like she knows she's getting used, but she also knows how to turn it right back on Doc as well too, with the FBI scene, which is incredible.
Yeah, she totally has agency. The FBI scene is hilarious.
I love when she calls him late at night and she's just like, yeah, but I could bring a pizza over. You know what I mean? And shows
that's one of the few kind of points of the the law and Doc sort of kind of intermingling. And then I guess you see it again at the end when Bigfoot is sort of like, I'm as broken as you are. I need you to understand that.
Yeah. I'm gonna eat all your weed.
I've been as destroyed by the Golden Fang as you have. It's beaten me down too, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. And that maybe your way of life isn't as terrible as I think it is.
And that brings us to frickin' Brolin, who,
Listen, we've talked about Brolin, Mr. Flip Flops, and Sicario before, but and
and
in
he's awesome in
Dune,
that,
he's in Dune as
and
well,
he's awesome in that too.
and he's awesome in this. He's
I think
great.
Brolin's one of my guys.
I think so too. I think like I'm a big Brolin guy. He's a
Yeah.
good. He works with good directors, and he's great in an interview. If you've ever seen him, he's kind of crazy in an interview. I like the thing about like Colbert. You want to bring it back to Colbert. Is like every time he goes on Colbert, he just wants to arm wrestle him. He doesn't want to answer any questions, and I think that that's just great because then you don't have to answer any of Colbert's questions. You can just try to arm wrestle. He's a wild man, but he's great in this movie, right, Jay?
He's so funny. And that's what I think Brolin is that he really doesn't get enough credit for, is he's just so freaking funny. I mean, the banana moment in this movie is arguably the funniest moment in the entire movie. And if it isn't that, it might be the pancake scene.
Oh, molto parakenko.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
my favorite scene involving him is when his wife answers takes the phone from him, and he's just like, "It's Portello."
and
Oh,
and his
it's
wife's name is Chastity.
just there you go.
So, you know, I wonder what their love life is like.
But no, I mean, like, there's nothing funnier than Josh Brolin sitting in that car eating that frozen banana. Just, I mean, how many takes did that have to do to just get him to just go to town on that banana?
Good for Joaquin for not totally losing.
I don't know how Joaquin's a pro, because I would have lost it. I would have lost it just watching him do that. But yeah, I mean, like kicking down the door after he's completely broken. I've one of my top 5 funniest moments that's ever happened in a movie theater when I've taken I took my wife to see this movie when it first came out, Jay.
It's brave.
And she wasn't a big fan of The Master. She loves this movie.
So interesting.
She loves this movie. She grew up watching like with her dad like Cheech and Chong and a lot of stoner comedies. We sort of wild 80s comedies as well too, which is kind of feels almost like even the
Zucker brothers.
Yeah, well,
kind of stuff.
and then like Weekend at Bernie's kind of shit like that. You know what I mean? But
yeah, that's what PTA was going for. He said, "I want to make a movie as good as Weekend at Bernie's."
No, but it's that kind of sense of humor where it's
no,
like
I know what you're saying.
Big, dumb, stupid
gags, broad
gags. Yeah, broad, very physical.
Although this goes back between broad and like incredibly personal and specific.
Exactly.
So
like
elegantly.
The drama is very like personal and specific, and then you have like this comedy where it's just like pitfalls,
Looney Tunes stuff,
and pants falling to the ground, and all this different stuff. You know what I mean? And weird names, because he's sort of notorious for that, and having that a part of it as well.
That is, he might have just gotten that from Pynchon. Maybe that is Pynchon's greatest contribution to PTA's career. Just the ability to come up with the specificity of the names he comes up with.
Exactly. But no, she loved it, but yeah, that scene where he's just eating all that marijuana, and like it's not even what Brolin's doing, it's again Joaquin Phoenix's reaction. Like
he's got a lot of reactions in this movie.
The funny reaction,
the photograph. Yeah,
it's one of the funniest. Every time it happens, and my wife was in the room when I was rewatching it this time. She just dies laughing. Like there's something about Phoenix in this role. Everybody around him. Also, shout out his Sicario buddy, Brolin's Sicario buddy in this movie too. Benicio.
Yeah, Benicio.
As like the maritime law cop. It's like his lawyer as well.
Basically a fake lawyer almost.
Yeah, I mean he's incredible in this.
He's really funny. I love the scene where they're in the restaurant,
like ordering, like that.
And then also, I mean, the scene at the end when they're talking about the fate of the Golden Fang, the boat, I think is this really kind of poignant. It's obviously kind of about, great. It went from the capitalists to the cops. How are they going to weaponize the Golden Fang? The perpetuation of kind of everything they've been fighting against in the hands of another party. But he's really good. He's got, I mean, Benicio's whole thing is just complete calm, and the humor and the drama that he can pull from that is remarkable, and he just totally nails it here. And I mean, there's so many huge actors who come in and out of this in smaller parts. One of the realizations I did have with this is, in the same way that we talked about Don Cheadle in Boogie Nights and how it was like he's kind of the heart of the movie, Owen Wilson is that in this movie.
I gotta tell you this: Owen Wilson, when he's on, he's great, and I wish he would write more, because like the best Wes Anderson movies are the ones that he's involved in, I think, in writing, like Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, Tenenbaums. And yeah, there's some sort of like, there's a melancholy to this character, especially by the end, that he has. And I don't know, he's just like a screen presence, Jay. Maybe it's because we grew up with him, but there's something comforting and yet sad about
Why wasn't he in Asteroid City? He should have been in Asteroid City.
Wasn't he in Asteroid City?
I don't think so.
No, maybe. No, I guess he wasn't. He was in Dispatch.
He was in French Dispatch. In that was one of my favorite parts. Was his little.
He was just like in there for 5 seconds.
His really short one. Yeah. Oh, he was probably not in it because he was in the Haunted Mansion this year. Probably. Oh, any of that Paint movie. Did you see Paint?
What is Paint?
He plays like what's the famous Happy Trees guy? What's that guy's name?
Oh, is he Bob Ross?
It's like a Bob Ross-esque.
Oh, I know
figure.
what this is. Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be particularly good, but
did you watch it? You didn't
no,
watch it?
no.
It just looked like a Bob.
And
Ross
of course,
Loki season 2.
he showed up in Ant-Man.
Well, yeah, because he's in Loki. Because it was a tease for Loki season 2.
And Loki, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You watched the Loki?
I watched the first season.
I hear it's like the good one.
It is the good one. It's actually really good, but I don't know if I want to watch the second season.
Yeah,
because like
stuff's really starting to feel like homework, and I feel like it's that way for a lot of people.
Well, well, I mean, there's the controversial bad guy that's just recently been fired. The whole storyline seems to be
true
inconsistent. Marvel doesn't seem to like know where they're going. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I didn't see the Marvels.
No, I haven't seen that yet either.
Quantum Mania sucked ass. Guardians 3 was good, but
Guardians 3 was good.
But again, that's, I have no interest in any really of their films going forward. I guess their only thing that they're doing really, it's not even in the MCU, is the Deadpool film, I guess.
I think they pushed back the new Captain America movie,
which sounds like a chore.
Harrison Ford's in it.
Isn't he playing like William Hurt's character essentially?
Yes, he is. Yeah. Thunderbolt Ross.
I don't care about any of that. Poor Harrison.
Ryan.
I mean, the new Indiana Jones movie was terrible.
No, it was okay.
It was not better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I disagree. In totality, I thought it was better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has much higher highs.
Yeah, it does. And those highs are good and are made by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I do think Steven Spielberg is a good director.
He's pretty good at his job, just like Paul Thomas Anderson. He's pretty good at his job.
All right, back to Owen Wilson. Back to Coy Harlington.
Yeah, Coy Harlington.
His story in this, I think, is awesome. He's kind of the one guy operating. He understands the rules of this world.
He's floating through the world.
Yeah.
And he just understands, like, that's how
he's kind of like, you kind of got to work for all sides.
Yeah.
It's kind of the only way to get through this. And it might come at the expense of some of your personal life, but survival, man. That's what you got to do at this point. And he's got sort of a similar demeanor to Doc's, but he's kind of at peace with the way the world works now, and Doc is slowly finding out exactly how it operates, and Coy is trying to unbind himself from his obligations and the danger that he is in, because he does see this window of opportunity where he can kind of unshackle himself from these entities that control everybody like puppets. And the scene at the end of the film where he is reunited with his daughter and Hope. It's a really, really sweet scene. And I love that it's done, composed the way that it is, where we never get a close up of them embracing or anything. It's all shown from in front of Doc's car as he drops him off, says goodbye, doesn't want any credit or anything for it, doesn't want to get paid for it. And he's kind of sad just sitting there because he's had this love before. He can't figure it out. He is at the mercy. He's coming to this realization that the world is kind of at the mercy of this golden fang. And it's a fairly tragic scene that is then given kind of an extra exclamation point with his final confrontation with Bigfoot. And that final scene with Bigfoot's final actions at the end of this movie really do kind of put an entirely new light on his character, because
It does.
really what he has come to realize is the most difficult thing that he's experienced in his life, which was the death of his partner. He's been unwittingly working for them this whole time. Everything that he wanted was the stuff that they wanted him to do. The Golden Fang wanted him to do. And again, it is this making it this ambiguous entity that represents so many different things, I think is really clever and does give this sense of overwhelming power to it. But Brolin is another, he's one of the MVPs of this thing. He's so good. And what an interesting career he's had.
Yeah.
He's been such a great bit player for a handful of really, really good directors.
He really has. And then, he's in some of the biggest films of, like he's in No Country, Oscar nominated for Mill.
He's freaking Thanos.
He's Thanos. He's in,
he's the lead of Hail Caesar. He's the lead of a Coen Brothers movie.
Yep.
Although I guess is he, no, who's the lead of No Country? Tommy Lee Jones?
He's the lead.
Is he the lead? I guess he's the lead.
Yeah, he's one of the, I wouldn't say, no, Tommy Lee Jones is like supporting. I would say Brolin's the lead. He's the lead for the most of it until
he drives the narrative.
Yeah, he's the one
until he doesn't.
Until he doesn't. Is Anton Chigurh the lead? Is he the one driving the narrative? Really, when you think about it, because he's the bridge but he's also just the bridge that connects both Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones. No Country for Old Men, pretty good movie.
Love that movie.
I think that you're right, Jay. I think also there is a realization from Bigfoot in that moment too, at least for me, of the fact that the system that he has been so embedded and trusted in has betrayed him and betrayed who he is as a police officer, therefore as a husband, as a man. But then also at the same time, they have told him, and he has been fed, that people like Doc are the enemy, are the reason why his job exists. And as we see throughout the film, the more and more he starts having to realize that he needs somebody like Doc. Then he's maybe probably tried to work with Doc before. Maybe he had a relationship with Doc at some time before. That's more than just physical, because there's moments like the slow motion where he runs out of the house, one of the houses that he's investigating. Bigfoot just kind of beats the shit out of him.
That's a very funny sequence too. Those ties, man,
they're wild. But I think that he even also has set him up how many goddamn times to fail, how many times to catch the bullet from the Golden Fang, essentially. The drugs in the back of the car and leaving that there, that is a way to totally set up Doc for that. And even still, Doc is able to he's able to navigate through something that Bigfoot is a cog in a machine and figure that out. And I think that there is a hint of jealousy and a massive bit of sadness and frustration that goes into that. And I think that's why he kicks down the door. That's why he walks on like the glass. as almost like an exclamation mark. But
Hmm.
then I think that the reason why he ultimately takes the drugs is to feel a micro moment of what Sportello has stumbled upon, right? And it's a short term fix, but it's not going to be solved by just doing this. And I think that, yeah, Bigfoot is in his relationship is a really fascinating one here in terms of the broken down nature of not just this investigation, police work, and how cops perceive people like Doc. I mean, he is perceived pretty negatively. I mean, there's another moment where Doc is going back to see Reese Witherspoon in the district attorney's office, and instead of getting pushed down to the ground, he's in a full fetal position as the
Hmm.
cops walk, as the swarm of cops walk around him, almost to this extent of what peaceful protesters were like in the 70s,
Crazy
protesting
building.
the yeah, oh yeah, crazy building, but
It
like
really the way that this utilizes the architecture and stuff is
of all,
it
yeah,
really does give it this sense of kind of surrealism and that kind of stoner quality to it.
but but yeah, and I mean, like, I don't think Doc. I wouldn't say that Doc's broken by this whole ordeal, but I think that this is I think he's massively confused and still trying to figure it all out. And I don't know if Shasta or the drugs or a new experience driving away will be able to fix it. But it's definitely, it's as they would say, a lot of heavy shit happens on Doc. I mean, like, he's been searching for Eric Roberts, right? That's who he's really searching for. But then he's also searching for Shasta, and he kind of finds both of them, and they don't lead to anything climactic. Like,
Hmm.
Shasta really, he doesn't even really find Shasta. Shasta finds him again at the end.
That scene is crazy.
That scene is super interesting.
And I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Catherine Waterston fan in the world.
Yeah.
She's awesome in this. And I think her casting is really good because she isn't, you would think traditionally in a movie like this, you're casting what? Like Marilyn Monroe in the 7 Year Itch or something, where it's like this
Mm.
complete dream girl who represents this era ideal, this kind of agreed upon ideal of a love interest in a movie like this. And Catherine Waterston is not that. Obviously, she's an incredibly beautiful woman, but she's always been a little. There's a little bit of an unknowingness to her, a little bit of a coldness and a distance to her, and I think that can certainly be appealing in its own right, and I think it is here. But really, where at the beginning of the movie she is kind of this ethereal figure of kind of mystery, and that's what's so appealing about her. She really just kind of puts her foot down and is like, "I am in control of this situation, Doc. This is kind of I've been exposed to the golden fang, and now I'm sort of I understand how this stuff works, and I'm starting to exert the same force that they're exerting." But and I'll tell you what that scene really does that I think PTA starts to do a really good job of and becomes a little bit obsessed with is just sound. Like we'll talk about Phantom Thread, but that movie is all about the very, very slight noises sounding so loud, like buttering the toast and stuff in Phantom Thread. Anytime they move on Doc's leather couch,
Mm-hmm.
it is so loud. It's discomforting in kind of how personal it starts to feel in that moment. You are in Doc's shoes, realizing that, every small thing right here is so overwhelming to me in this instant. And Catherine Waterston, Shasta is just, I mean, she completely takes the reins and you're kind of like, okay, I get it. I understand it. Okay. And that's something that I've never really seen from Waterston again. She's an interesting one because I thought maybe not even just I thought she was being set up to be one of the next big things, and it just didn't really happen.
No, I think she got franchised in a bad
And
franchise.
she picked the wrong horse on that one.
Man, she got put in that. and that Fantastic Beast and Where to Find Them franchise, and boy, has she just got saddled with not getting anything interesting since. At least I don't know, unless you're seeing something I don't see here, Jay. That's
No, I mean, she really hasn't, right? I don't think she's particularly good in Alien Covenant, although I like that movie.
no, I don't think she's good in that. She's supposedly so see she's supposedly in Jay's going to be like a show that doesn't exist, but it definitely doesn't exist anymore. She's in that second season of Perry Mason that came out this past year.
Oh yeah, I want to
Uh,
watch that show. Actually, it looks good.
I want to watch it. I want to watch the first season was really good, and the second season was the last season because they
Yeah, they're
canceled
ending it, right?
Yeah, which is crap. But she's in Babylon
Briefly, right? Not a big
briefly,
role.
like in the yeah, like towards like the
The
middle,
what was the movie with Vanessa Kirby in her?
the world to come.
Yeah, that I just kept watching that and being like, why isn't this good? Why
Her,
isn't this good?
Vanessa Kirby, Casey Affleck, and Christopher Abbott. You have that much talent, you should make a good movie.
It's not a bad movie. It's just
It's nothing.
frustratingly fine.
Yeah,
There's just not a lot to it.
she's in like,
Going for a little lady Brokeback Mountain kind of thing.
but yeah, I mean, she's in like Steve Jobs.
She is in Steve Jobs.
She's like in it for. She's in it like the first act, I believe.
She's the
She's the
ex-girlfriend,
mom.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's the mom to their child, and
Mhm.
but yeah, she really doesn't have any. I mean, she really doesn't have much that's like interesting. I think she'd be great working with PTA again, honestly, because she's kind of got the look perfect for this era too. You know, of this kind of person of the 70s of this era, and she kind of you're right in that traditionally somebody like Shasta would be played by this unobtainable, you know, beauty of the generation, but no, this is it's played by someone that is beautiful within their own right, not to say that Catherine Waterston isn't, but is a beauty that also has a relationship and dynamic and history with Doc. And I feel like in their way that they talk to one another and way in which she interacts with Joaquin Phoenix, you feel the history between the two. I mean, like one of the best sequences in the movie for me is when they're on drugs and they're racing in the rain when they're a couple in the past to find that imaginary place.
PTA's love of people in love running in front of fences.
Yes.
It was so reminiscent of Licorice Pizza that
with Gary. Yeah. I mean, like it, but also too, like just the reminder that PTA is like one of the best at needle drops and dropping that Neil Young song in the middle of that.
Well, I mean, the best needle drop in the movie is the opener.
Yes.
Vitamin C by Can, which is just such a great way to start that movie. Oh my God. The opening shot is fantastic too.
Well, also too, like really the last couple of films we hadn't like had
opening and closing shot.
Hadn't had contemporary or more what he's known for calling card needle drops. You know what I mean? Like you have like the Save Me Satan song that drops in The Master, but there's nothing in
Get thee behind me, Satan. Yeah,
get me
it's not the poppy.
It's not the jukebox
stuff.
shit that we
exactly
for like Boogie Nights, and I mean this is the other thing that we really haven't talked about. This is a callback to him going back to going back to LA, San Fernando Valley, a place where he's made his bones in his career, and that's where he kind of trailed off the last two films, and going back and making something from another material rather than like when he does Licorice Pizza, and that's very familiar and very he's shooting at places like literally that are right up the street, talking about a movie that's made during COVID restrictions and times, and yet he's found a way for that movie to be made Jay, like in his backyard essentially. but yeah, anytime that he makes a movie in the LA area, I mean, he's probably the best at it right now of anybody.
He's certainly up there. I don't know that I could tell you somebody else off the top of my head. I mean, Tarantino's really freaking good
Tarantino's
at
right
it.
up there too, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
um no, I mean, going back to LA, it's almost like the familiarity he had with the location almost gave him license to make his weirdest movie in some ways.
But there also feels like a little bit of like it's not romanticizing it. Like even like his other films feel like a tragic poem or a love letter or this movie, even though it is a comedy, it is a almost a giant damnation of the system
Yeah.
that puts the structure of a place like Los Angeles on the map, and how it's all
It is.
connected to
It does really have this sense at the end of like, well, now what? Sort of like the master does.
like you're driving
A
away.
little bit like There Will Be Blood too. And
Well, that's
honestly,
yeah,
the similarities between this and There Will Be Blood and the Master are actually they're kind of all there.
yeah, because they're talking about power dynamics and structures of
Yeah.
giant monopolies.
And you talk about like the cults of the Master are very present here. The land ownership of There Will Be Blood is the exploitation of land takeovers is all here.
Kind of almost like Doc being essentially like Freddy, a lost soul traveling through
The
this
explorations of
mystery land.
capitalism I actually think are done more uh, cleverly here than they are in There Will Be Blood. A little bit less overtly.
Yeah.
It's and it's just so many great moments in it. Again, we haven't even really talked about Martin Short other than just saying he's in the movie, but he comes in like a stick of dynamite for 5 minutes,
Yeah,
10
like
minutes.
him in the back of the car, stuffing the drugs underneath underneath the seat or whatever.
I mean, when he pulls his pants down and just waddles away like a penguin,
it's comedy gold. He is one of the funniest people on the planet.
He really is, and he's.
Do you watch Only Murders in the Building?
I've watched like half of the first season, but you know how I am with TV. I just like it and then stop watching.
Jay's got this thing. I'm going to call you out on it, Jay, but Jay's got this thing where he's watched all of the seasons of Mad Men except the final
except
six,
the last one. I just talked about that on Kevin Jacobson's podcast with him. Actually, that came up. It's a weird thing, but I feel like if I'm going to watch the last season, I have to go back and watch all of it. It's not fresh enough in my brain to just watch the last season.
That's fair, but I mean, what a terrible thing to do, to go back and watch one of the greatest shows of all time.
Yeah,
that's not your favorite show of all time, though. That's The Leftovers, right?
Is The Leftovers no? It's Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is my favorite.
Twin Peaks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks rolls.
Twin Peaks does roll, especially the return.
Yeah. You got anything?
Kyle MacLachlan should be in a Paul Thomas Anderson.
He really should. He should have been like, who would he have been? Maybe he could have been like the Eric Roberts role.
I was just gonna say, in this movie in particular, that's probably the one.
That's probably the one for him. I'm trying to think of like, there's nothing for him really in Phantom Thread.
He could have done the Sean Penn in
oh yeah,
Licorice Pizza.
Well, I think Nick Cage would have been probably the guy to do that, but we've talked about that in the past.
We've talked about that in the past on an episode that hasn't come out yet.
Exactly.
That will come out in the future. Whoa. Trippy, bro.
Trippy.
Appropriately trippy, dude.
Exactly. You got anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah. Cinematography in this movie is spectacular. What a good looking movie. And they do this one move very regularly where they'll kind of just, there will be a conversation and you'll have Doc and whoever he's talking to both in the frame, and it will just slowly zoom, almost like you're in a trance, where it's like you're focusing on one point and you're slowly approaching that point. And then most of the time, Doc just ends up not in the frame by the end of it. And I just think it's a really cool effect that has, and really contributes to the mood of the movie. So this camera is pretty mobile in this thing. And obviously there's some very like, I've wanted to do this shot all my life type of shots, like Owen Wilson doing the Last Supper with the pizza. Just really fun stuff like that. He's so willing to go big in this movie in ways that he has kind of been resistant to in his last couple movies, which is a lot of fun. And I like this speed for PTA. This is you could probably argue this is the most unique film in his filmography as far as stuff that he's done. He's never really quite gone this over the top again. I guess the closest is probably Punch Drunk Love, which is this really, really subjective inner world that has been created and is so exaggerated. But this is so much more zany and overtly comedic than that movie is. And you know, he might be doing another Pynchon adaptation, I guess. We'll see if that is the case, but if he is, it'll be an excuse for me to probably read a few more Pynchon novels and see if I can really get on his wavelength, because now that I love this movie, I wonder if I would like the novel
books
more. Yeah.
You think
Which
maybe
is,
it's like a thing you maybe you grow up or we're out of college.
I mean, I'm sure there's some of that too.
Maturity
He's
or
such
something.
a specific author.
Yeah.
Man,
You gotta get on your wavelength. Like, I mean, it took us a long time to get on this movie's wavelength. I mean,
yeah,
you literally like put yourself in the electric chair in order to.
yeah, exactly. I
That's
I
mad.
tried to. I mean, I literally, what I was trying to do was force myself to like this movie, and I couldn't. I mean, I liked it. I always liked it, but
To love
now I all the way like love
love.
it,
Yeah.
love it. And
I
it
think-
is. I do think this is a movie. Weirdly, despite the fact that it is a stoner comedy at its heart, I think this is a movie that works better as you age.
Yeah. I think that like Greenwood's work here is subtle, but it's actually really, really good. And
Yeah, because it is a lot of needle drops, but
It-
there is some
there's
Greenwood
really-
in there.
Yeah, when you hear it, like, especially I think it's a lot of stuff by like towards the end of the film, but then definitely by like the stuff as the final scene. I think the final scene in the movie is just again devastating, and a movie that is you have been on a quote unquote high and then it kind of leaves you like that. It's really interesting way to for PTA to end us after we've been on this ordeal.
Yeah.
Sort of just the reckoning of their pasts and how they're going to have to navigate it, but then Doc still ultimately being very paranoid, right? It makes you very paranoid, like you're talking about, very Bakula in the way he's looking as he's driving, and you can't see either side of highways or behind him, right? It's this unknownness, it's this shadow of light. You know,
Well, it's also like the return to some sort of natural world order, which has been so. And that opening shot that we see multiple times of the beach between the two buildings, that's really about like the natural world being obscured by the world that man has built, and kind of it's just signifying, you know, this is all about the mechanics of the things that we have built.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really smart way to start.
Well, and with that, I mean, the mechanics of their relationship as they're in each other's arms, and super, it feels like they've been like sucked dry of their energy, and they're both coming out of this experience finally together as they drive away.
But Doc isn't as, if you want to make the comparison to Philip Marlowe in The Long Goodbye, Philip Marlowe in that movie is like totally downtrodden and kind of defeated. Doc really isn't that way. He's a little more chipper.
He's chipper, but I mean, Jay, he is sitting.
There's an underlying loneliness to him for sure.
There's a loneliness and a sense of still deep paranoia from this experience. He has been.
Oh yeah. At the end,
yeah. But no, Marlowe by the end is like completely. In that movie, he's like jaded and pissed almost.
That's It's the Altman-y stuff that PTA didn't fully adopt. Stylistically, he adopted so much from him, but really, and that's kind of been one of the revelations of this watch through, is he didn't adopt Altman's cynicism.
Yeah, which is what
his acidity,
which is great.
The ending of The Long Goodbye is one of the great movie endings of all time.
Well, I feel like I've that and California Split, like those are both movies that you watch by the end of it, and you're like, and even Nashville, right? Nashville's
I mean,
such a
shortcuts.
short. I
They're
mean, they're
all they're
all.
kind of all that.
I mean, The Player. I mean,
Gosford
how?
Park.
I mean, how? Like Richard E. Grant's character in The Player says, I don't want to make a movie like this," and then we end up seeing the movie that he said he
Yeah.
didn't want to make at the end. Like talk about like ultimate cynicism. Talk about a studio financing all that.
Bruce Willis and Julia Roberts in The Player. Oh my God.
Not knowing that they're in on this big joke. It's got to
Incredible.
be. I don't even know if they knew, but it's incredible. It's probably some of their. It's not the last time though that they're in on a meta joke, right?
True.
Ocean's 12.
I didn't think about the fact that was them both times.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I love the way you're shot, the way you're talking about Elsewit. This is their last collaboration. They haven't worked with each other since. But
BTA is a self cinematographer now.
Yeah, he learned all he needed to learn, and now he's doing it all.
A jack of all trades.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he might collaborate back or give back that control with his new film. You never know, just depending on the sort of size and scope of it. I feel like his last two films that we'll talk about over the next couple of weeks are a little bit.
So curious about what he's going to do next.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I'm wondering what it is. It's interesting. It won't be something that's current, because I read that thing. It was like an article, just like auteur directors don't make modern films anymore.
Cell phones.
Cell phones. It's just the killer of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the needle drops are great. The editing, I really think also too, the movie's really well edited and put together, and it's because it's such a tricky story and tricky screenplay and everything too. Leslie Jones's editing is absolutely essential to keeping this thing working. But yeah, it's a pretty good movie. I like it a lot. It moved up into the 5-star club on this weird watch for me as well.
Yeah, these movies tend to be doing that.
Yeah,
on these watches.
I feel like there's not many that aren't probably 5 stars by the end of all this. Hey Jay.
Yes.
Before we get out of here.
Oh boy.
Do you want to test your award season knowledge based on the movie we just watched, Inherent Vice?
I would love to.
We like to call It's an Honor to Get Nominated.
Yeah, this one was an absolute awards juggernaut, I assume.
Jay, was this movie nominated for any Oscars?
Gosh. My immediate gut reaction is to say it was not nominated for anything.
Okay.
However, I'm going to say that they threw it a bone or two.
Okay.
It didn't. There's no way it got in for screenplay. I'm saying no to screenplay.
Okay.
I'm going to say production design and costumes. That's what I'm saying.
Are you locking it in?
I'm locking it in. I don't feel confident about this one at all.
Okay. So you got one of them.
Okay.
Mark Bridges got in for his costume design.
Mm-hmm. But not production.
You should have got no production, but you should have gone with your gut instinct. It got into adapted screenplay.
It did get into screenplay. Okay.
Yeah. It was the adapted.
Those were the two.
Yeah. Those were the two.
Yeah.
Got nominated for two.
They do. They'll put a weird thing in screenplay.
Yeah.
That's where they'll put a weird thing.
Yeah. Like this is the same year they put Nightcrawler in original. So.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you the adapted screenplay lineup?
Hit me.
It's going to make you
mad.
I
got to look this up because I got to figure out what all I would nominate this bad boy for.
It's going to make you mad.
Okay.
So Inherent Vice was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. It was up against The Imitation Game.
Oh, yeah.
Which won the Oscar.
Now we're talking.
Which won the Oscar. American Sniper.
Oh, yeah.
The Theory of Everything.
Jesus.
And Whiplash. Which, when you really think about Whiplash, it's based off of Chazelle's own short. A lot of people were putting in an original, but then they had to move it last second to adapt it.
I do remember that being a thing.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's the best screenplay of those. Whiplash is a good screenplay.
Whiplash.
I like this movie more than Whiplash, but
yeah, I think it's the best film and the best screenplay of the bunch. And also, I would say the most difficult adaptation of all of those pieces of literature or former art that were assembled there. Jay, this was the infamous year of Birdman winning everything.
That was a year. I loved Birdman when it came out. I haven't watched it since.
Have you? Oh, you haven't seen it since?
No.
You don't know.
So right now, I quite like it.
Where you stand on Inuritu?
Not super huge on him.
You didn't like Bardo, did you? Or did you like it?
I was very much in the middle on Bardo, but I liked it more than I didn't.
Okay. What about Revenant?
Revenant is a decent, a pretty good chase movie disguised as a pretty crappy art house movie.
Okay. I get you. It also doesn't help that it came out the same year as another race movie, Mad Max Fury Road.
True.
Yeah. I don't hate it like some people do, but I also don't think it's like the greatest movie ever made. And then yeah, like I'm not a fan of like his Misery.
Oh yeah, this was the
films.
Boyhood year.
Yeah. Jay's not a big fan of Boyhood.
Yeah, not my fave.
Not your cup of tea. You like Budapest? Grand Budapest?
Oh yeah. One of my fave Wes's.
I think I like Grand Budapest out of this lineup the most. Selma's pretty good.
I agree with you.
I haven't seen Selma in a long, long time though. Whiplash is good, not great.
Whiplash is good.
I like Boyhood more than you, but it's also movie was like shot like 45 minutes away from where I live. And
I would put.
It's very.
I would have Licorice Pizza over everything in this lineup.
You have Licorice Pizza or Inherent Vice?
Oh, sorry.
You can say
not Licorice Pizza because it didn't come out this year.
Yeah, but
Inherent Vice.
I mean, if you want, Licorice Pizza could be in this lineup. It just time is a weird thing.
It is. However,
Inherent Vice. That's
no, Inherent Vice would be my pick for best picture out of this lineup.
If it was in there.
If it was in the lineup.
Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8. There were only 8 films nominated this year. It was when they did that sliding scale. Jay, what do you think of the sliding scale? Do you like that?
Is that the that's when it could be like 7 or it could be 10 or whatever?
Yeah, when it should just be either 5 or 10.
Yeah, just do 10.
Do you like 10 or do you wish we went back to 5?
I kind of like 10. It makes it possible for smaller films to get a little shine, I think.
Yeah, like a Drive My Car.
Like it's cool when Drive My Car gets nominated, or an Arrival or something like that would never get nominated in a 5. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think you're wrong on that.
There's generally one sci-fi movie that gets nominated, which I think is always pretty cool.
Would you nominate Inherent Vice in any other categories?
Oh boy, let's do it. I mean, Eddie Redmayne won Best Actor, so you can literally pick a movie and put him in instead of Eddie Redmayne.
That was such a sad moment to see Keaton have to put that.
That was tough.
That big Keaton fan, lifelong Keaton.
Oh yeah, big.
Oh,
big
you know
Keaton
what?
fan.
Keaton would have been great in the Sean Penn role.
That's true. That's true. Keaton would be good in a PTA.
Keaton elevates everything.
Yeah,
he's got that. He's kind of got that California look in the 70s vibe to him. Like Keaton could definitely knock.
You know what movie I think about weirdly regularly?
Are you gonna say like The Founder?
Yes, exactly.
I was gonna say The Founder because that movie is like.
Why isn't that movie great?
He's good.
He's very good in it.
But the movie itself is poor.
It just doesn't really have a point of view.
No, it's just like, hey, this asshole took McDonald's from everyone.
And there's like 3 shots where he's standing in front of a church or something, and you're like, okay, you're getting, and you have an idea here. Should we expand on that? No, this is kind of all I got. Like business is church. I'm like,
well, that's like John Hillcoat, right? He's like, he's just like a nothing.
He's just like a guy.
Yeah, he's just a dude. John Hillcoat did a movie. I think he did The Blind Side. I didn't think he did. Jay, look this up for me. Look up John Hillcoat. Maybe if I'm wrong,
I
hopefully I'm
gotcha.
not saying his name wrong.
No, you are. It's John Lee Hancock,
John Lee Hancock.
sir.
I'm sorry, my bad. Um, but he did The Blind Side, right?
He did.
And he did The Road, didn't he?
No, he did not. The Road was that actually might be John Hillcoat.
That might be John Hillcoat. Okay,
John
see, I'm
Hillcoat
getting it
is the
mixed
guy
up.
that did he did The Proposition, right? Isn't that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And
John
then he did The
Hillcoat's kind
Road.
of actually a guy. You said that and I was like I must be confusing him with
Well, it's
somebody
because they
else.
both make movies like in and around each other, and they've got John H. in their
The
name.
Proposition, that was one I watched in high school and I was like, "Oh my god."
That movie rules. But then, like his version of The
Oh,
Road is
yeah,
like
he did
yeah.
Lawless and
Did he did The
Triple
Highwaymen?
Nine.
Is that
John Lee Hancock,
Hancock
did.
did yeah, that Netflix movie, right?
Yes, he did. I mean, he's done like so many like sappy. He did The Rookie.
Oh, Rookie's good though.
The Rookie's like solid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
The Alamo. So
Ooh,
I guess
ooh,
Dennis
boy.
Quaid was his
Yeah, he
his
was like,
muse there
that
for
was
a little
one-
bit.
yeah. Weird muse to have.
The Little Things.
What's the little things?
Denzel. Jared Leto.
Oh, with Rami.
Yeah.
That was the last thing he did.
No, he did this. What is this? Mr. Harrigan's Phone.
What?
This is a Netflix movie. It looks like it was maybe shot on a cell phone.
What? Who the hell
Was
was
this feature length? Yeah, 106 minutes. I have never heard of this. Starring
job.
Donald Sutherland,
What?
based on a Stephen King book
What are you talking
or a
about?
Stephen King novella.
Sounds okay. Good job, Netflix.
I think
I've
we've
never
got
heard
a
of
movie
this.
to cover next week. I think bonus app,
Bonus app.
Mr. Harrigan's Phone.
I feel like actually a good series might just be the adaptations of Stephen King stuff. That might be interesting. Series.
But no, if I can, what else would I nominate this for? Let me just
This is how we got
go
to that
here.
point off of Keaton.
Yeah, we're
would
good
you
at this.
nominate
Although
Brolin?
actually we were more on topic after our 15-minute nonsense intro. We did pretty
Yeah,
well
we did
today.
pretty well today.
All right, I'm putting it in picture. I'm putting it in director.
Would you put Joaquin
Just
in
based on the
actor?
lineup, I'd put it in actor. I would have to look at the other movies that came out this year.
I'd kick out Cooper easily.
I think Cooper is very good in American Sniper.
I hate that movie. So
I don't love that movie, but
I don't like that performance. I don't like any of that propaganda. We can just get that.
best actress, nobody really qualifies. Supporting actor, I'm putting Brolin in.
Who are you kicking? Oh, you're kicking out Duvall for the judge?
Yeah, the judge. Sorry, if the glove don't fit, you must quit being in this lineup.
Did you see the judge in theaters?
No, I saw that one at home.
So what did you think of the poop scene?
I mean, cinema was alive and well.
There's Top Gun Maverick and then the poop scene of the judge. You know what I mean?
Supporting
Same
actress.
level.
Would I put anybody in for supporting actress?
I mean, I'd probably take out Keira Knightley, and I would probably
And put in who? Waterston?
I mean,
Witherspoon? Are you putting Reese in there
I put
for
Reese in there.
her couple scenes?
Yeah.
You know who I like?
Actually,
and
you know
who-
what? I'll take Laura Dern out for her like one scene in Wild, and I'll put Reese Witherspoon in there for her or Hong Chow.
You know who I like in general?
Mm.
Jenna Malone.
I was gonna say
I've always liked Jenna Malone.
I wish she would do more. Somebody give her more.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I remember when she makes love to a corpse in the Neon Demon. Remember that?
Not really. I don't remember that, but it's.
You see the
maybe it's
Neon
coming
Demon?
back. It's been a long time. You know, that was the thing. Talk about a guy that was riding high for a long time. Was
I think that movie's
Impressive.
good.
is it good?
I think so.
I haven't seen it in such a long time. I don't remember anything about that movie. You know, I got to rewatch Drive. I haven't seen Drive in like forever.
God, we watched Drive recently. Got that 4K. Ugh.
Is it the big box?
No, it's just the disc.
Just the disc? Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that is totally a movie that you go into and you're like,
gonna.
you go into it like you're watching Fight Club, and you're like, I mean, this is like not actually good, right? And then you watch it, and you're like, oh boy, oh what a movie! Wow.
Did Allie, your wife, actually did she watch it with you? Or did she say no?
She
Thank you.
finished it this time, yes, of course.
Initiation.
Famously, that was the first movie I ever took my wife to, my now wife to, a movie theater for. And when Ryan Gosling stomps a gentleman's brain into mush in an elevator,
Hell yeah.
we left. And I thought this was a good last date. And now we're married.
Yeah.
So,
which is funny because actually, when I took Megan to see it in 2011, she was the one that picked the film. So.
She actually
did she pick the film?
No. I picked it, but I was not expecting it to be quite as violent as it was. I was like, oh, stylish action movie.
She's got Ryan Gosling to look at.
Yeah, I mean that was my thought, and yeah, it's not quite that. Although it is, it's a good movie.
It's not the greatest movie of all time. Can't tell that to William Friedkin or anything, but that whole conversation, Jay, that you sent me about Friedkin.
Unfortunately, we're never going to talk about William Friedkin.
No, maybe.
Sad. No, it's never going to happen. I'm making it illegal.
Okay. I mean, there's also I don't know how this wasn't in production design, honestly. It's such a really good production design.
Oh, yeah. Back to noms. Screenplay.
Oh my God. You know what this year is?
What?
Cinematography. Okay. There's Ida and the Grand Budapest Hotel and Birdman. Unbroken. That's Roger Deakins. That's your boy.
Mm-hmm.
But then Mr. Turner got nominated. You know what this
Mr. Turner.
Do you know what this year is, Jay?
What?
This is Dick Pope, also known as
Dick Poop.
Dick Poop. This is Dick Poop. the face that Jay just made, laughing at this. You can't not laugh at it. It's Dick Poop.
I'm giving it sound editing.
Okay. Would you nominate Ellsworth over Dick Poop?
Yes. I mean, I'd nominate him over. I don't know. That Birdman cinematography is pretty special. I actually haven't even seen Unbroken.
It's a bad movie.
That's what I've heard.
But
either way, I'm putting Inherent Vice in here for something.
It's just miserable. I just remember watching that in the theater, be like,
I thought it was supposed to be an inspirational story.
It's a miserable movie. It's like what some people feel like with Silence, but Silence actually like has things it's saying and a point.
Uh-huh.
That movie doesn't have a point. It's just like, yeah, a lot of bad things happen. You survived it. The end.
I'm giving it makeup. I'm kicking Steve Carell's nose to the curb.
You don't like Bennett Miller?
I like Bennett Miller fine.
He's just not your guy.
No, not one of my guys. I'm giving it Stooms.
Where is he?
Making a bunch of commercials.
Is he really?
I believe that's what he does.
He should make a movie. He's pretty good at it.
I'm giving it editing.
There's certain guys that should make movies like him and Tom Ford.
So I'm giving it a lot of noms. I think I'm at like 8 or 9 or something.
Damn. You go hard in the paint for this.
It's a great film.
Would you nominate did you say score? Would you nominate it for the little score?
Not enough score for me.
Not enough score. Oh, okay. All right. Way to be pure. Be honest about it. Mad that score for.
You know what? An Oscar for best soundtrack would be kind of fun.
Ooh, like best compilation?
Yeah.
Like the Grammys do?
It would always go to the best music that a movie had. It would always just go to like the one that would make the best Spotify playlist.
What do you think would win that this year? Probably Barbie, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Would it need to qualify with original, or would it also be like Needle Drops?
I mean, it could be Needle Drops too. But the problem with doing Needle Drops is, like I said, it would just become what's the best Spotify playlist, not what are actually the most useful to the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Barbie, most of the songs are good, I guess.
Well, like
Iron Claw's got a good soundtrack.
Iron Claw's got a good one. Saltburn's pretty good.
The Killer. Hello.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's just playing a bunch of the Smiths, but that's not a bad thing either. Just All the Strangers. That's very
Priscilla has a very good soundtrack and is actually maybe the most effective soundtrack of the year since they didn't have the rights to the Elvis music.
you know what? Honestly, yeah, I'll agree with you on that. That's actually pretty good. Asteroid City too.
Mm-hmm.
The Wes Anderson knows how to. Anatomy of a Fall, just
I
for the
mean,
one.
Air's got a fun soundtrack.
I was gonna say Air's pretty good. Anatomy of a Fall, just for one needle
Guardians,
drop.
Guardians has always got good music.
That's yeah. Um, that would be a really good category, Jay. Actually, you just come up with something that no one really ever talks about.
Yeah, fun
Look
one.
at you. Look at you getting in the awards season.
I'm becoming.
Your
I'm
award
getting
fan.
inundated.
Yeah, there you go. So, well, Jay, why don't you tell everybody out there where they can find you and all your work?
You can find me and all my work over at awardswatch.com. I write stuff there every now and then, and I'm on the main podcast every now and then, and I do this show. You can find me on Letterboxd. Just search Jay Ledbetter. On Twitter, you can find me at Mr. J Ledbetter. Movie recommendation of the week. Merry Christmas, everybody. Charlie Brown Christmas. Freaking perfect movie.
Perfect.
Unbelievably good. A melancholy masterpiece. That's what a Charlie Brown Christmas is. And then for a big feature-length movie that will also operate as a plug for a podcast I appeared on. I was on Kevin Jacobson's podcast, and the runner-up is, although I think maybe it's just a Patreon. So subscribe to his Patreon and you can hear me. We talked about John Frankenheimer's Strangers, which I'd never seen before, and absolutely rules. Or not Strangers, Seconds. Sorry.
Seconds. Seconds. Seconds is a great movie.
Yeah, Seconds rocks. Talk about some experimental visuals.
It's on the Criterion collection, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, used it as an excuse to buy the Criterion. I don't need much of a push to do that, but yeah. I definitely had one here.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Ryan McQuade 77. If you like this show, you can listen to our main show. That's every Monday, though we won't have one this coming Monday because it will be the holidays and it will be Christmas, and y'all should all be with your families and not listening to a podcast on Monday. But we're usually dropping them on Mondays. This show, of course, drops on Thursdays. And go to iTunes, Spotify, 5 stars. We'd love to see that. Newsletter, go sign up for that on the website. Eric puts that all together. We'd like to see that as well. It's where you can get all of our great work sent to you, all the great other stuff as well. Movie recommendation, if Jay's going to pull out Charlie Brown Christmas, I got to pull out the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is a masterpiece.
Good one. My son has really been digging that.
He's been really digging Grinch?
Yeah.
That's good.
And he loves the Charlie Brown music in Charlie Brown Christmas. Elite stuff.
Makes you real sad, but also like super good too.
Good grief, Charlie Brown.
Other movie recommendation, just a regular movie, but also because it's the holidays, one of the greatest holiday movies ever made. I did a complete 180 on this movie last year. I'm gonna rewatch it sometime this week and cry my eyes out. And it's Frank Capra's A Wonderful Life.
Yeah. I was one of the big reasons you love that movie now.
You were, Jay. I watched that. I think you got to be older to kind of maybe appreciate that more.
Yeah.
Definitely changes as you and your life changes, but
they usually project that on 35 at my local theater, but they're not doing it this year.
What the hell?
Sad. Yeah.
That's really sad. Are you gonna still watch it at home?
Always. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You got the 4K on that one?
Yeah, although I don't think it's a stellar transfer.
Okay. But there's like a DVD copy in there, or a
Blu-ray
copy in there.
Blue. There's a blue in there. Yeah.
There's a bluey in there. But yeah, go ahead and watch some holiday movies. Spend time with your loved ones. Next week, we will be back doing the penultimate episode of the PTA series. We'll be talking about Phantom Thread.
Oh boy.
And of course, that means that we'll be having a guest back on. It'll be the one and only Sophia Simonello joining us.
Fan favorite.
She may or may not like
and one of our favorites.
One of our favorites. I don't know if she likes Phantom Thread. We'll
the most
find out. next week.
She's the most frequent guest on the podcast, surely.
She is. She's been on the most. I think it's the 5 Timers Club for her next week already.
God, is that true?
Yeah,
that's a lot for how long the show has existed. But
also love having her on.
Yeah,
exactly. She's talking about a movie she may or may not like. You never know. P-Thread. We got this. So thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you all next time.